Welcome, everybody. So glad you're here. My name is Hunter. My pronouns are he, they, and welcome to this chat and learn with Power to Fly. I am so excited for our speaker today. We're talking about some really interesting, amazing stuff. And Liz and I already had some nice bonding time over our pets. But before we get to Bonnie and Clyde and Francis and Liz and Hunter, we are going to go over some housekeeping first. Yes, that's the name of her cats and my dog. Okay, so we invite you to participate. You can turn on your cameras, join the fun. Maybe your pet will make a cameo too, or a plant or a glass of water, whatever you want to introduce, as long as it's safe for work. No need to be IG ready or any of that. Just enjoy the ride. It's a great way for us to have a name to a face, because you can participate by writing in the chat. You can ask questions. You can let us know what you think, what's happening. Liz and I will be taking questions live as well, so keep them coming throughout, and then we will pepper those in. Also know that we will be sending a recording out of this, so you can rewatch this talk. You can share it with your friends at Power to Fly Chat and Learns on our YouTube channel. And also on that channel, there's so many great resources, so I encourage you to check it out. And you can follow us on all the things at Power to Fly, hashtag Power to Fly. You can tag and repost this as well. So without further ado, folks, we have Aurora Solar today, and this is a screenshot of their landing page at the Power to Fly company website. You can see awesome information about their upcoming events and lots of job offers, availabilities up there that you can apply for. And if you apply for a job through Power to Fly to Aurora or any of our partner companies, they get a little message saying that it came through Power to Fly, so they know that you're in the PTF family, so that will only help you out. Okay, so now we have Liz White here today, who is Senior Manager Product and Design Operations at Aurora Solar. Liz has been leading teams to design, develop, and launch technology solutions for over 20 years in-house as a consultant at startups and at Fortune 500 companies. Liz has a talent for connecting people with opportunities and finding solutions to problems. She is excited to extend her experience leading cross-functional program teams to leading products and design operations at Aurora Solar, a clean tech company with the mission of solar energy for all. Gosh, I hope we get it, Liz. Please welcome Liz White. How are you today?
Great. Thanks, Hunter. Thanks for being so much fun and so welcoming and inclusive of pets and all of us. So it's great to be here. Thanks for having Aurora Solar here.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, Liz. All are welcome. The more pets, the merrier. So, Liz, before we kick off to our questions, where are you calling in from today? Is there anything you want to share with us before we jump in?
Yes. So I'm joining from the San Francisco Bay Area from South Berkeley. And actually, I just want to give a shout out to a few Aurorans who joined this call as well. So I love that.
Oh, I love that too. Aurorans, it sounds like a town I'm not familiar with.
Yeah. So Aurora Solar is based in San Francisco, but the company is remote forward. So people are all across the US and Canada currently.
Awesome. So for all you listening, if you want to chime in where you're calling in from, we'd love to hear. We'd love to see how far our reach is going across the globe. It's always exciting to me. I'm calling in from New York myself. We actually had a day that was reminiscent of California weather, where I'm originally from, and was like, I can actually walk my dog today. What a gift. Okay, so Liz, let's jump in. So friends, the way this is going to go is y'all submitted pre-submitted questions in advance to us. Thank you to all of you that did that. If you're saying, what, I can do that? Yes, you can. If you go on the Power to Fly website and you check out our upcoming chat and learns, there's a box at the bottom of the page where you can write your questions. We go through all of those questions and we compile them onto a list here, and then we go through them. So feel free to give a shout out if you want to give a highlight to your question. These have been anonymized, so I don't know who wrote them now. It would take a little extra cross-referencing that I'm not going to do right now. But if you want to give a shout out in the chat, you can. And if any other questions come up, please do. Yes, we got friends from Buenos Aires, we got Colombia, we got Boulder, Colorado, we got Illinois, more Berkeley, we got Canada. Oh, hello, Canada. Chicago. I'm flying into Chicago next week. I'm going to the Windy City for the first time. St. Louis. Oh my goodness. I love it. I love it. I love it. Cool. Okay. So Liz, here's one of our first pre-submitted questions. How did you decide a management position was right for you? What would you say are the cons of leadership roles? Let's get right into the nitty-gritty, huh?
Sounds good. And people are, of course, welcome to stay off video, but if you want to turn your video on and be nice to see faces, no pressure there. I guess let me just give a little bit of background about my personal background. So I started out my first few years after business school managing, and first 3 to 5 years, I would say, love leading teams. I don't know that I so early in my career was that great at it, and then really spent the next 20 years as an individual contributor, both in-house in enterprise management software and FP&A and services marketing, and then found leading programs as a program manager to be my passion of leading things, bringing teams together that had a beginning, middle, and end. And then when my kids were about 2 and 4, I ended up leaving to start consulting, doing that. So being a program manager and a Scrum Master. So, and really did that for 10 years also as an individual contributor. The thing I just want to say, because I think it's interesting in the questions, people use the words manager and leader interchangeably. And something I just want to say is, I definitely feel like you can be a leader as an individual contributor. So I think the question is both around being an individual contributor versus a manager. And if you want to stay as an individual contributor, how can you be a leader as an individual contributor? Just to kind of wrap up where I am currently professionally, about 15 months ago, I decided that I wanted to go back in-house after consulting for 10 years, just on the personal front. My kids were 14 and 16, and my original reasons way pre-pandemic for consulting was wanting more flexibility and more remote time, and that's the world we all live in now. So I decided those goals had changed, and I also really wanted to expand my skill set, which I felt I would best do by going back in-house, and I also wanted to start leading a team again, managing a team. So Aurora Solar and I found each other, and happy to answer questions about Aurora specifically. And now I'm leading a team of product ops and design ops folks. So I guess that's just wanted to give a little bit of context in terms of my background. I would say the original question was, what are the cons of leadership roles, which I think I'm going to translate as management roles or being a manager. I think it really just depends on your own goals or interests or passions, but I think there's a risk when you're a manager of it brings you out of the day-to-day functional work that you might be passionate about or interested in. So you need to be interested in managing a group of people who are doing that thing versus doing that yourself. So that's one con I can think of, but I think it really depends on your goals. So
Yeah.
long-winded answer, but I wanted to give a little bit of background so people kind of know where I'm coming from.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Thank you for all of that. It's nice to paint the picture and to hear your trajectory so far is really, and I think so many of us, myself included, I can identify with that longing for flexibility and remote work. And it's really awesome to hear that that's a big part of Aurora and what attracted you to it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
yeah.
it's awesome cause, like what you're doing. Like that is very important too. It's really nice to believe in what you're working in, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I think we can talk more about Aurora later, but there are a lot of things that I love about Aurora specifically. So
yeah, cool. So friends, keep it up with your comments. I love it. Anything that's firing, and keep those questions flowing. If they're happening, we will go ahead and answer those as well. So someone asked, Liz, what soft skills have helped you thrive in a management position? And I'll also expand on that if there's any ones that perhaps you've noticed in others that you think might be transferable skills for folks that are looking at management and leadership roles.
Yeah. I think one of the skills, well, a couple of things that come to mind for me are being able to both understand the big picture or the vision of the company, the vision of where your organization is going, and to connect that to the specifics or the day-to-day of what the team is working on. And then I think related to that is a coach that we worked with at Aurora called it ruthless prioritization. So really having the ability to help your team based on that bigger picture vision, ruthlessly prioritize and figure out what you're going to work on and not work on. I think another skill set that I think at Aurora in particular, the product design engineering leadership is really good at is allowing their teams to be pretty autonomous. So again, helping to set the vision and then letting those teams be autonomous, interconnected, but autonomous units to work on their work. And I think that can be hard as a leader, allowing teams to figure out how to get someplace on their own, and then something that I probably continue to work on as a manager, to how to not always step in and try to fix things, but let other people do things.
Yeah, that is very hard to do. Easier said than done for those that we can see a problem and we want to help, and our intention may be good, but in the long run, it's like, you gotta teach the person to fish, right? So that they can do it themselves.
Right. And whole
that
teams.
Yeah. What's that?
And whole teams.
And
yeah.
whole teams.
Give that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's this phrase, it's called passive leadership, which I don't really love the term, but it's actually referred to horses, because horses in groups, they don't go for the most aggressive one. They go for the leader of the horse will be the one with the path of least resistance, where it's like, oh, it's like soft leadership. And sometimes leadership can require knowing when to step back, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah.
I also love what you mentioned about ruthless prioritization. That sounds like the dark side of the moon of a Brene Brown idea or something.
I love Brene Brown.
Me too.
Yeah. If people don't know Brene Brown, definitely listening. She has amazing books, audiobooks, podcasts. But yeah, I think especially in probably all of the contexts that we all work in, there's more to be done than you have the time for, or the people for, the resources for. So constantly prioritizing on what's most important. Just as a side note, something Aurora's just working on getting really good at is OKRs. So really, setting strategic objectives, and then what are the key results that tie to those. And I think that's one way of prioritizing, but still figuring out how to really focus on the most important things that are also, fun and exciting to be working on as a company.
Yeah. How do you do that? Some people like to break things down into really small, achievable goals. Some people are like, okay, this is my week, this is my month, this is my quarter. Like, how do you ruthlessly prioritize your day and also your quarter,
Yeah. Interestingly, actually, I was just talking to my team about this at Aurora. When you become a manager, you work in a cohort of other managers with a third-party consultant. And a tool that they rolled out to us was the Agile growth plan. So it's called Agile because the goal is you don't just pull it out at performance review time, but you can do it anytime. And it's really about setting 3 focus areas, no more than 3, and then no more than 6 things that tie to those 3 focus areas. The idea being that it's hard to focus on more than 6 things at once. and those are your focus areas and your tasks laddering up to those focus areas until you are done with one of the focus areas, and then you can pull something out of the icebox. And I really like that because it helps prioritize. I will say I'm a huge fan of goal setting. When I guess a little bit separately, when I was looking at a career transition from being in-house to a consultant, I worked with a coach who had me set a 5-year vision and really specifically write down where I wanted to be in 5 years, from what was I going to be wearing and where was I going to be sitting doing that work and what kind of work and who are my clients. And it was hugely helpful just taking that time to visualize where I wanted to be in 5 years. So I also recommend sort of what does this next 6 months look like, as well as the 5-year plan.
I love that. I love that too. And we actually have, if you do go onto our YouTube channel, friends, we have some great talks about 5-year plans. And I think maybe some shorter ones too. I know we definitely touch on 5-year plans, but I like that the 6 months, or how long did you say for your smaller one?
First half of the year, I think, at least at a startup, it's hard to think back, it's sort of, what does the next 6 months look like is really tangible.
Yeah. I love that. Okay, great.
And I did want to just, if you don't mind, just speak to
Please.
Monica had the question about which third-party company, and I'd love to give a shout out to People Storming, which is the sort of, I don't know, leadership coaching consultant that Aurora Solar uses. And then I had used previously a coach, and I'm happy to share that offline, but when I was looking at building my own consulting practice, used a whole book that was really amazing that I recommend as well. I can talk about that later.
Awesome. Thank you for that. People Storming. What a great name too.
Yeah, they're fabulous.
That's awesome. And they're the ones that came up with the set 3 focus areas and then no more than 6.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Very cool. Very, very cool.
I was going to talk about sort of personality and aptitude tests later. There was a question about tools, so we can either go there now. There's a question in chat, or we can get there later. Whatever you want to do, Hunter.
Yeah, either way is fine. We can jump into it if you want. If the neurons are firing and we're inspired, let's pepper it in.
Okay.
So the question from the chat is, had your team taken any of the personality or aptitude tests? High Five, Truity, there's so many of them here, and is so interesting and valuable for better understanding team performances. Has your team done any of this stuff?
So I would say, though, at least at Aurora, the tool that we've used is Strength Finder. So at Aurora, on the product and design and engineering side, teams work in pods of a product manager, product designer, engineering manager, and then up to 8 engineers. And so pods would all take the Strength Finder test together. And it was a really great way of understanding each other's strengths individually, and then really mapping out where the team's top strengths are and seeing where you align and you have strengths, and also where you might have gaps and where you want to partner. So I don't know if I would love to hear on the call if people have done Strength Finder before, if you want to throw it into chat. But I think last I looked, you can take it individually. It might be $35 or $40, but basically the premise is it gives you, lists out 40 strengths, and it tells you your top, 5 strengths, top 10, and the goal is to focus there. And it's good to know what your bottom ones are, but it's less about improving your bottom strengths and more focusing on the top, and recognizing your blind spots is really great.
Yeah, I love that. And which was the one that your team used, you said?
It's called Strength Finder by Clifton Strengths.
Cool. Okay, cool. Yeah. Great. Thank you for those questions, Monica. I love that. Okay, so keep them coming, friends. We'll keep peppering them in. We got, about 40 minutes left, so now's the time. Okay, so another pre-submitted question we have is, this person wrote, I don't like being in the front, in the forefront of the center of attention. Therefore, I feel like I am not a good candidate for a leadership role because I would rather stay in the background. However, I'm good at training and leading others. How would you go about determining if a leadership role is the right fit considering this situation? So I think this is something a lot of folks can identify with.
Yeah. Yeah, I think when I read this, my first, I guess my first question is whether the person has read the book Quiet, which I really recommend, about introverts and extroverts. And I think my first reaction is, I don't think you need to want to be out front and center in order to be a leader. I think it's possible to be a leader, be more of an introvert as a leader. I think a lot of introverts are very good at listening and asking questions. And I think those are really important leadership qualities. So it sounds like somebody else read the book Quiet, and oh, hi, Yachin. I love there's so many Aurorans here. That's so great. Yachin's at Aurora. So I would really recommend reading the book Quiet. And then I do feel like there are functions that are maybe more supportive of a more introverted leadership style. So I think that would be something to think about, and different company cultures that are supportive of leadership styles that are, less outgoing or front and center. Those are some of my initial thoughts.
I love that. Again, I can throw us back to lots of chat and learns about just this topic, about introverts and extroverts. While I've been working at Power to Fly, I learned about ambivert, which is sort of a mixture of both. And you can kind of slide on either scale of that, which if you're like, oh, I'm more introvert in this way, but I'm extrovert in that way. And I kind of learned about myself, was like, oh, I think I just learned what I finally am. It was really nice. And I learned that here while on the clock. So what a gift. Yeah. But there's a lot of great resources that we can jump into, because neither of them are better or worse. They just have different strengths and other things where we have to set up different boundaries for ourselves, right?
I will also just add, just thinking about that question again, I do feel like whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, I feel like part of being a leader is being comfortable having a voice and using your voice and having your voice be heard. And I think part of having your voice be heard is being at a place or a company that supports you and who you are, both supports you, who you are as a person, and supports your function and what you bring to the table. So I would say one of the things I really appreciate about Aurora's, and I think it makes me feel more comfortable as a leader speaking up, as I see other people in leadership roles who look like me. When I went back in house, I thought I was going to be as a startup, I thought it would be a bunch of people who are 20 and 30, and there are other people who look like me age-wise. There are a lot of women in leadership, especially in product design and engineering. There are a lot of women in leadership. There are a lot of women in color in leadership at Aurora. And I think, and I also feel like what I bring to the table functionally is valued at Aurora. It's more operational and process focused. So I just want to throw in there, I think, in addition to, are you an introvert, extrovert, is the culture that you're in supportive of you making your voice heard?
Yeah, absolutely. Because if we feel like we're standing out in the crowd, we might go to more introverted qualities if we don't feel like we're in a safe work environment. Yeah. Well, I love hearing about your experience there, and that
and this isn't meant to be a sales pitch on Aurora. It's just
well, it's your personal experience. That's what you're speaking from, right? And yes, they are hiring. Yes. So,
go to the website.
Yeah, exactly. The powertofly.com/companies, and you can type in Aurora Solar, and you can see all the listings there. Okay, friends. So keep those questions and comments coming. I'm loving this. So another pre-submitted question we had, Liz, is this person wrote, how do you continue to progress your career and earning potential if you don't want to go into management? Would love to learn more about your experience as an IC, and if you could also define what some of that stuff means.
Yeah. So I think this goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning, which is you can be an IC or an individual contributor for your whole career. I did that for 20 years before going back in-house. And I think it really, at good companies who care about growing their employees, their career ladders for both management and their career ladders for being an individual contributor. And you can be a very senior, very tenured individual contributor and never take on a management role if that's what your interest is. So if you want to continue to focus on your functional area of expertise and not be a manager, hopefully you're at a company, or your next company will support your growth as an individual contributor. I think specifically continuing to progress your career potential. I mean, I feel like as a manager or as an individual contributor, constantly thinking about your own learning plan, your own learning and development plan, and taking classes, whether that's going deeper in what you know or expanding your skill set. I think some of the ways that I've personally done that is through local community colleges. I happen to be in UC Berkeley, and they have a great evening extension program, and I have taken classes there. Also certifications. So in my field, for me, that was PMP and Scrum Master certification, Project Management Professional and Scrum Master. So I think those are some of the things that come to mind for me in terms of continually, and I also just acknowledging the world around us and the market around us right now. I think that can also just give a sense of self-confidence of continually investing yourself, which I know is hard to carve out the time for on top of everyone's personal and work lives. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's, we could do it in small and big ways too. I love hearing about, sorry if you can hear a weird sound, that's my dog digging in the background right now. I told you he'd make some sort of cameo.
We knew it.
He's starting to wake up. Hi, Francis. Good morning, my dear. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Hi, Francis.
Okay, so, here's a great question. Could you share some advice on how to determine if we are better suited for a leadership role in small, medium, or large company? I love this question.
Yeah, I struggle with this one a little bit. Let's see. I guess I'm wondering if the question about a small, medium, or large company is about if it differs in terms of whether that's a fit for you as an individual contributor or a manager. I will just share part of the reason. When I went back in-house, having been a consultant at a bunch of Fortune 500 companies, I decided I want to go back into a smaller company because I feel like at a smaller company, one of the benefits is you need to wear a lot of hats. There are a lot of balls in the air. Whereas at larger companies, I would say in general, maybe your focus is more specialized. So I don't have experience managing in larger companies. As a manager, all my manager roles have been more in startup sized companies. And maybe that's by choice because I tend to manage teams that I build. Like I'll start a function and build the function and then lead the team, which might be more of a smaller company. I would love to hear from the chat, or if anybody else in chat has any thoughts on this. But I think in general, culturally, at smaller companies, you need to be prepared to be pretty nimble, pretty fast paced, wear a lot of different hats. And maybe at a larger company, that your interest is more specializing and going super deep on something versus broad.
Yeah, you're getting plus
Jared,
one
okay.
stat from Jared as well about that. I also got a DM follow-up question to this, and you just started to touch on it too. In your opinion, what is the difference of managing a Fortune 500 company versus a startup?
Yeah, and I don't have the experience of managing a team at a Fortune 500 company. Just as an individual contributor, I would say your focus is more specialized, whereas versus wearing a lot of different hats. And there's more sensitivity around my personal staying in your swim lane a little bit at a very large company. Whereas actually, when I had joined Aurora, I remember initially as an individual contributor sort of asking for permission. Can I go do this thing and run with this thing? And everyone was like, basically, heck yes. Because whereas at a larger company, the answer might have been, that's somebody else's job. So I think it's at a smaller company, just wearing a lot of different hats. And then I expect as a manager, that multiplies.
Yeah, we're getting similar comments here in the chat. Maria said, smaller companies, I feel make you grow faster because of all the responsibilities and because you grow with them. Jody chimed in with, I've managed at a larger company. I would agree with what Liz said and add that I found there is often more flexibility in management approaches in a smaller company. So,
yeah, great. Awesome.
Yeah, thank you for your input and feedback, friends. Keep it coming.
And also, Hunter, I just wanted to point out Jeremy's post. Jeremy's another Auroran. I love all the Aurorans on the line, with sharing a link to culture of psychological safety. So thanks.
Oh,
Thanks,
fantastic. Yes. Through McKinsey. Thank you for that, Jared. I am bookmarking that. I'm going to take a look at that later. Thank you so much for that. Okay, friends, so we have just under a half an hour now. So we have 30 more minutes for questions and answers. So please do start sending those questions in, because oftentimes in those last 5 minutes, I'll get 10 of them and I can only choose one. So please keep them coming now, and I will do my best to get to all of your questions.
And actually, Hunter, sorry, can I just say one thing?
Yes.
Just building on Jeremy's comment, just wanted to give a shout out for another book, and this was a recommendation from the same consulting organization that we worked with, a book called The Fearless Organization. It's a really great audiobook. I tend to do a lot of audiobooks while walking, but it's the premise is around building a culture of psychological safety where people feel like they can speak up, and really great research around what fearless organizations or culture of psychological safety look like. So just another book recommendation.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, please do keep them coming. I'm taking all of these notes down, so I appreciate it as well. Okay, so we're going to pop back over to a pre-submitted question here. This person wrote, could you share some advice on how to determine if we are better suited? Oh, sorry, we already did that one. Next up, how would you advise communicating your career aspirations to your manager? Great question. I'm currently more focused on horizontal growth, but that doesn't mean I'm not interested in gaining more experience and collaborating on different projects.
Yeah, I mean, I think my main feedback would be, well, hopefully you have a manager that you feel that you can talk to about this and what your goals are. And I would just encourage you to talk about it early and often. So not save that for an annual performance review, or, have those conversations once a year. And actually, I would just go back to this idea of an agile growth plan in terms of what are your main focus areas and how to support those more tactically. And hopefully your organization has an individual at Aurora, we have career ladders built out by function for individual contributors and managers. And it's really explicitly talks about the career path along the AC, the individual contributor path. So being able to have that conversation about sort of how do you continue in that trajectory.
Great, love that. We're getting a couple questions from the chat here. Jody asked, what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced moving from IC to manager, and how did you deal with them, Liz?
Well, I mean, I will share that it's really in the last year at Aurora let me just connect this also to Jared's question. When I went back in-house after consulting for 10 years and then really being an IC for 10 years before that, I joined Aurora as an individual contributor, as a senior program manager, and I'm now building out a mighty team of 3, about to be 4 people. So I think it might have been hard for me to go back in-house as a manager, not having managed for a little while. So I went in-house as an individual contributor and then became a manager. So hopefully that answers Jared's question. And then Jody, I think one of the challenges of managing a small team is just juggling you're both being an individual contributor and leading some things and managing a team. And then how do you, while trying to bring on a team to start taking over the things that you've been managing individually? So how do you balance both being an IC and being a manager? And maybe, like I was speaking at the beginning, keep from wanting to jump in and fix things and let other people do that. So as they should be. So yeah.
Love that. Okay, so let's pop back over to our pre-submitted questions. Someone asked, how do I position myself for a leadership role when I don't have previous experience managing teams? Can you share any tips on small tasks as an IC I could take on in order to become a leader in the future?
Yes. So I have lots of thoughts on this one. And this is one where I would love to hear from people in the chat as well. So I think the question is really, as an IC, how do I get leadership experience so that I can potentially move into managing a team in the future? I think some of the things that come to mind for me are pro bono. So there might be opportunities outside of your current role where you're doing pro bono or volunteer work that is taking on a leadership role. So for example, when I was starting out my consulting business, I started working with Taproot Foundation, which I highly recommend. I don't know if they're international as well as in the US, but they bring together teams of professionals to do work, whether it's strategy or branding, marketing, visual design, create a new annual report on behalf of a nonprofit. And so it's an opportunity to get really great leadership experience, working with a nonprofit board, leading a team, but in a pro bono way. So that comes to mind. Or is there leadership opportunity in your community or at your school or at, different nonprofits that you might work with? So that comes to mind. Other ways, I think, to show that you can be a leader and also explore if managing people is of interest to you, are to mentor people internally. So if your company has a fellowship program or an internship program, then maybe manage somebody in that way. I actually was just interviewing with somebody recently who mentioned that they, at their company, started a fellowship program, which I thought was a really great way of exhibiting sort of, that ability to lead. And let's see, any other ideas? Would love to see in chat if other people have ideas of ways to build out leadership experience. And then I think a couple other things come to mind is let your manager and other people at your current company know that you're interested in more leadership opportunities. I've seen at Aurora people reach out and say, hey, I'm interested in a leadership role in XYZ area. Do you have any ideas? And there's so many cross-functional projects or initiatives that need to be run. That's another great way to exhibit being a leader, is just raising your hand and saying, hey, I'm interested in taking something on. And also, I would say networking and letting other people in other parts of the organization know.
Love that. And someone chimed in saying frequent coaching and interactions, networking, like you were just saying, I think is really helpful. leading employee resource groups is one way, and I'm considering building my capacity to lead. Awesome. I love that for you. So good. Yeah, so as they keep coming, drop them in. Oh yeah, reaching to mentorship programs help too. Yes, absolutely. Did you work with mentorships? Yeah, yeah, we figured it out, Maria. Thank you. I mistype all the time. Yeah, was that something that was part of your trajectory, Liz? Did you have a mentor? Are you a mentor? Is that?
That's a really good question. This is being vulnerable for a minute. I actually sometimes am a little bit envious of other people who say that have had these amazing mentors or ongoing mentor relationships. Actually, Jody, I think you're on the phone. You're from Aurora. You have a mentor you've had for a long time. You still have a relationship with. So I thought about this question, and what I realized is the people that I go to for mentoring support are other professional women mom friends. They're sort of my people who are struggling with similar issues of being a working mom, and that's who I lean on for a lot of advice. I also would say that I have found affordable coaching opportunities by working in coaching groups. So paying people to mentor me as well. So I think I probably have opportunity to think more about. I definitely have former bosses who who have supported me, and when it's time for me to make a career change or a jobs change, even if I haven't talked to or worked, I have one in particular who I haven't worked with now for 15 years. When I have a big job change, I will call him and ask his advice. And he's just always somebody who believed in me and understood me, and will give me really great unfiltered advice, which I appreciate.
Oh, I love that. I'm so
Yeah.
glad you have that. And, to boomerang it back around to Brene Brown, she says that vulnerability is an act of strength and courage. So thank you for showing your strength and your courage and being vulnerable with us and talking about that. That really means a lot. Oh, look, Maria's asking if you consider being a mentor yourself.
Well, it's interesting because as I was thinking about, I think it does take vulnerability to ask someone to be your mentor.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, I think that anyone who is asked to be a mentor, myself included, would be so honored. So I think the flip side of, we should all ask someone to be our mentor if we're drawn to that person. And absolutely, I would love to be a mentor. And actually, I think this goes back to my first point of, I feel like my hypothesis is that if I'd spent more time in companies that had similar values and people in leadership that maybe, I don't know, other women in leadership, then maybe I would have felt more comfortable asking them to be mentors. So I think it kind of goes back to, what culture are you working in, and does that support who you are and who you want to be? So I think it's all related. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And you're getting some love in the chat right now.
Thanks, Isabel.
And I love
Isabel.
too that you have your group of your friends, your peers that you lean on. My friend likes to describe it like, you got to have your Fab Five, right? Like, who are those people that I can call and, like you said, get that like unfiltered advice or opinions that I really respect, that can help me reality check, and help me kind of figure things out. I'm like, oh, I'm thinking about, I want this, but do I and these people that really know us, we will listen to these people. Someone just asked, what if you don't have a Fab Five? Absolutely. It's something that takes maybe it's one person, or maybe you reach out to consultants like Liz also does. There's a lot of resources, but it is about creating, I think, a a conversation with people that you respect. Maybe they have what you want. Maybe they are going through similar things. These safe kinds of conversations that are helping us stay on the beam and, reach for that North Star.
Mm-hmm. I just want to mention, because I forgot in the moment, I forgot the name of the sort of coaching program that I did when I was starting out consulting business. I don't know how many people here are interested in independent consulting. I saw one or two questions initially, and the program is called Get Clients Now. And I mention it because it's a book, and it was a more affordable way to do like a 6-week program in a group environment so you're still with a consultant, but you're not paying an hourly consulting fee. So it's called Get Clients Now. I don't know if they're still doing coaching, but highly recommend that if you're more in a place of wanting to build out a consulting practice. And really great philosophy there of taking 10 daily action. Actually, it applies to finding your next job as well. The whole premise is set a goal, and then 10 actions that you're going to take every single day, and then have a group to be accountable for. And part of the whole philosophy is about the karma. This might sound a little woo-woo, but the karma of putting energy out into the world to help other people succeed and find their next role, and connecting them with their next role that will come back to you in some other unexpected way. So recommend that book.
Oh, I love that. I'm a big believer in being of service to other people. And I think it does come back, whether it might not be today, it might not be tomorrow, but the fact that I am getting out of my own head and my own story and seeing the possibility for someone else's success, I think whether that person helps me or not, quite literally, it doesn't actually matter, because for me, it gives me context over time to be like, well, this person is awesome and they should succeed, and I want to help them. And there's more people doing that. And if we can be those people for each other, I think it comes back around, whether, in small ways and sometimes in really unexpected ways and big ways too.
Yeah. Can I share 2 more thoughts on that, in case people just given the environment that we're in, if people on the call, if anybody's in the position of looking for a job or needing to network, whether it was that book or another book, one thing that really helped reframe networking for me was if you're in a place where you're needing to do a bunch of networking, whether for what we're talking about today of moving into more of a leadership position, changing jobs, is to see networking as an opportunity to help other people. So whether it's going to an event, just say, if I can just go to this event and help one other person or 2 other people by asking them questions, helping connect dots for them. And it might be helping them by sharing a podcast that you listen to. I don't know. It just reframes the whole situation, and also means that you're more likely to go. And versus being, because I think networking, especially going back to the introvert question, can be kind of intimidating. So absolutely. So I wanted to, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm so glad you're sharing about this, because I love that, because I think networking, I don't know, I think the word has a bad rap. I think it has a negative connotation for a lot of folks. I know it did for me for a while. It's like, oh, I don't want to look desperate or sleazy or weird or pushy, or, all these concerns that are completely legitimate. But I love your reframing of this by that, of like, oh, me going to a networking is an opportunity to help someone else. Again, like that will help us, because now we have a mission for while we're there, as opposed to just handing out business cards, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I love that.
I think related to that, and going back to if anybody is in the position of, looking for the next opportunity, and going back to this book, Get Clients Now, the whole idea of having sort of 10 action steps to take a day is 10 action steps to take is sort of having movement. And the number one thing the coach of this program would say is, the first one thing you have to do is you have to get out of your house to take those actions. And I just wanted to share 2 examples where just by leaving my house led to a job opportunity. One was when I was a consultant going to the ATM back when people used, I don't know, cash, and went to ATMs, ran into a former coworker who we struck up a conversation and they ended up being a future client. And then the other was recently going on a walk with somebody and learning that they were looking for their next job opportunity, and then connecting them. I was able to connect them to a job opportunity. So just wanted to emphasize the importance of, again, just connecting with people and voicing what your interests are, whether it's moving into a leadership position or next opportunity. So.
Oh, I love those examples. Thank you so much. That's, because there's a lot we can do from our computers and online. And here we are right now. We're networking, we're at an event, we're talking. Like, this is, we didn't have to leave our houses or our apartments or wherever we are. But there is something about like getting out the door too and being in the world, because those bits of chance encounters can sometimes, I don't know, just kind of there's a potency to it that can sometimes just lift us up a bit, right?
Yeah,
I love that. So we have just a few minutes left, friends. So if you have any more questions, now is the time. This is when you're all going to send me too many questions, but I want them all. I want them all. So send them to me now. Okay, so there was a pre-submitted question that I liked, that was just caught my eye as we were talking too about in person and digital and remote and going in. Someone asked, have you noticed any differences between good leaders for remote teams versus in-person teams? Have you seen any differences there?
Oh, that's a good question. I would love to hear what other people say on the chat, if there are any ideas out there. I know we've been talking a lot at Aurora about how to make meetings and gatherings more beneficial, more collaborative. Jody's saying, I think you have to be much more deliberate when working remotely. Thanks, Jody. Yeah, it's interesting, an interesting question about how to manage remote. I mean, I will say, I feel like one thing Aurora has done really well is being very intentional about having a really, really strong workplace experience team that deliberately brings people together for culture building, team building, learning about each other's cultures. And I think that maybe is more of an org structure question, and investing in your workplace experience team and leadership supporting people taking the time to do that. Or, for example, at Aurora, we work in pods, and a couple times a year, pods will fly and get together because it's important to spend time together. So I think it's more like leadership support of people making those connections, because it can get a little bit isolating working 100% remotely. So it's important to be intentional about that. What the difference is managing people remotely versus in person, that's a really interesting question.
Yeah, it's unique. And I think I love hearing about what's similar. I definitely appreciative of Jody's comment there about it being very deliberate, right? Because when we're scheduling calls and meetings, it's like, okay, if you look at someone, I'm sure you can relate with some people on your teams. When I'm scheduling a call with people at Power to Fly, some of them, they have like a 15-minute window in February when we can talk. Like, that's it. So it's got to be very clear about respecting other people's time and knowing what you want to talk about in those times when you are being clear, right? And deliberate.
Yeah. I mean, that does, just you saying that makes me realize, I think as an individual and especially as a manager, supporting people's work-life balances. And I think working remotely, as we all know, our work lives and our personal lives can bleed together and our work life can take over. So really, I think encouraging your team to, and all of ourselves, and maybe leading by example, to set good boundaries around work, so that you're not working nights and weekends and you're being healthy.
Yes, exactly. It's so important, and some ways that I do that I've learned from teammates as well, as they have these blackout dates or times, in certain
Yep.
days where it's just like, cannot book me. This is when I'm doing this, especially as we are both working and many of us are working with teammates that are in different parts of the country, different parts of the world, even. So really respecting those boundaries are really important.
Yep. It
Yeah.
took me a year at Aurora to figure out my cadence, which is I block off from 3 to 5 every day and as do not book meetings. And the first hour of that, I might go out for a walk for an hour if I haven't moved all day and I've been in 30-minute back-to-back meetings. And I learned that from another Auroran who does the same thing. So that's actually one thing I just learned as being a parent with little kids is I learned what hours work for me. And if coming on from 8 to 10 p.m., but signing off at 3 p.m. is what works for me, that's what you need to do. So
that's what we need to do, right?
Yeah.
So friends, we're going to wrap it up now. What a fast pass hour this has been with Liz. We asked her some questions in advance as well. So getting real with Liz, I always like to say getting realer with Liz, because I feel like this conversation got real, y'all. So
Thanks,
how would you
Hunter.
describe the culture in one word? We're talking about Aurora, and you said welcoming. What's your favorite part about working at Aurora Solar? And you said the people and the mission. Do you want to expand on that?
Yeah, I think the people in the mission, it's related to welcoming. And I talked about the workplace experience team. I do feel like it's a place, and I hear this from my team members who've been onboarded recently at Aurora, feeling very welcome during the onboarding process, the interviewing process, that they feel seen as people. And the mission of a mission of solar for all. It feels in this day and age to be part of something that's bigger is really important to me personally at this point in my life.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And the last question here, what are your top tips for someone who is interviewing? So you mentioned some resources here and they can learn and apply at aurorasolar.com, connect with you on LinkedIn. And I think that's so important, right? To do your research on wherever you're applying, right?
Yeah. I would say, so Aurora Solar just went through a rebrand in the last year, and the website is kept very up to date and great blogs. We're going to be doing a lot more blogs in the near future, demos you can attend. So if you're interested in Aurora Solar, keep an eye also on the jobs. There are a lot of jobs and it's kept up to date. And I just want to share a LinkedIn story, which is I did a talk recently more targeting existing and soon to be college students and soon to be graduated college students. And afterwards, somebody reached out to me on LinkedIn and we had a conversation. And if we were to have a, future intern program, then they would be someone I'd consider. So, not everybody is going to be able to respond to every request on LinkedIn, but I think Aurora is active on LinkedIn, and it's a great way to see if you might have an area of connection, or just, hey, I was in this event with you. Would you have 20 minutes to talk? I think is totally valid. So I encourage you to do that.
Awesome. Well, Liz, we're out of time. Is there any closing thoughts, any words of wisdom, any meows from Bonnie and Clyde you'd like to share with us?
I put Bonnie downstairs because I was worried I'd get distracted. So no meeting her today, but I just want to say thank you so much for having us, and super great questions from the audience. So Hunter, great facilitation on your part, and thanks for having Aurora.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Liz. This has been so great. And thank you all for your participation, for your questions in advance, your questions in the chat, your participation in the chat. So let's give Liz a digital round of applause, as I love to do. Yes, thank you so much, Liz. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Isabel. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and good luck, and bless you all. Have a good one, y'all. Take care now.
All right. Thanks. Have a good afternoon.